Today I was going to be working on my sister's 2006 Pontiac Torrent. Got to do the front brakes here. They're pretty well gone. It'll be interesting to see how bad the rotors are once I get them off, because I'm going to go ahead and do both the pads and the rotors. This side wheel hub assembly was put on not too long ago, so hopefully the rotor won't be stuck so bad. If it is, we'll probably use our rubber mallet or hammer if need be to knock it off. Mainly because there's rust that builds up between the rotor and the wheel hub assembly. Alright, let's get started on all this. Alright, now we've got 4 bolts we're going to be loosening. There's one on each side here and down here. And there's a mount from here to there. That mount is the caliper mount. That one takes a 15 millimeter. So we're just going to grab the old ratchet. Man, she's on there good and tight. There we go. We got one on the bottom here. That one wasn't so tight. Last guy that worked on this didn't really do everything like he should. Alright. Got those where we can spit them loose. Oh, by the way, I am wearing my safety glasses. And yeah, let's get going on the rest of this. I got a 14 millimeter for these top ones. So we'll just break those loose. Just some quick jabs like that a lot of times will loosen up. It's kind of similar to how your impact, I guess, will work. It's your original impact, your hands. Woohoo! Alright, so now we got those loose. Should actually just be able to kind of spin the bolts. Unless they're a little bit rusted, or maybe the previous guy was smart enough to put a little bit of Loctite on there. So spin those loose. That's always a good idea when you're in here to go ahead and check your CV shaft. And look at your shock, make sure you're not weeping oil from your shock. The other side is, so that'll be on my list of things to do to help my sister out. Let's get her some, oh sorry, struts. The front of these, they are struts. Look at that, rotor's already loose. Good for me. I'll make it a lot easier. When they're not loose like that, you gotta beat on them, like beat on them and rotate them, beat on them and rotate them. It's not always a great idea. I think because you're putting some extra, I don't know, force on that wheel hub that's not generally used to that. But then you got to think, as it's going down the road, this whole system is constantly moving up and down and jarring because of the inconsistencies of the road. So it might not be too big of a deal, I guess. Now let's go ahead, make sure these are loose enough that we can undo them by hand. I think they are. Now I'm going to go ahead and take the bolts out just because. They're little itty bitty guys. Alright. And now, like before, we're going to bring our trusty bucket in. Get this off. Doesn't want to release. It's moving on the rotor. But there's so much damage to the rotor itself that it didn't want to come off. Alright. Look at this rotor. There's a lip right here. Now, even though it's smooth, it's not really smooth. You can feel some ridges in there. You kind of see them in that video. There's some big ridges. I did get new rotors just to make sure I'm going to do it right. Let's bring this over. That came off real easily. Now, these pads are long overdue. This one's almost gone completely. I wouldn't be surprised if this kept going for a little while longer. We wouldn't see the rivets. Alright. But before we go ahead and swap the pads out, we're going to push these in. Now inspect on your caliper here. Make sure you have no oil or your brake fluid coming out whatsoever. You see any brake fluid coming out of there, you can try to buy a whole brand new seal kit and redo it. I would just rather spend the money and know I have a brand new good caliper ready to rock and roll. Now what we're doing here is I'm going to use my seat clamp. They do make a special tool for this. I don't have it. I don't really feel like I need it. Now make sure when you do this, take your brake cap off, the brake reservoir cap off. Otherwise you can build up some pressure in there and eventually end up just shooting the whole reservoir cap off of it. Because as you close this, all that fluid from this caliper is going to push back in, because these are basically little hydraulic cylinders. They're kind of just like single acting cylinders in the aspect that they don't have any mechanism that's going to make them go back on their own unless you force it. I mean, imagine the cost if this is actually a single acting with a return spring or a double acting cylinder, and you have a lot more hydraulics. But yeah, it's easy enough to just do it this way. You can also, I've seen it where people take like your caulking tube holders, and they figured out how to use that to do this same darn thing I'm doing. Well, I mean, this only takes a few minutes to compress back in. It's no big deal. Man, it sure is windy today, I'll tell you that much. Like I was talking about in my tree video, how bad these Midwestern winds are, you know. It blows and blows and blows. I think I'm about good to go here. Yep. Almost. You know, one thing I told my wife, we've done a lot to help out my family and friends and doing mechanicking work and stuff of that nature. Well, I've got the skills to do it. I've got the shop and the tools to do it. I was a diesel technician for a while. And now I'm an electromechanical technician. So it's like, if I got the skills and the abilities, and we have the finances at the time to help out, we are going to help. So I feel like if you have the chance to help people and you don't take it, you're doing not only a disservice to the community, but a disservice to yourself. All right. Oh, good thing I landed on the rubber mallet that I got down there. Here's our new clips. Wow, that's really bright. There we go. See our new clips over here? Those are going to go on that carrier for the brake pads. Now let's go ahead and compare here. Old pad. This is all steel right here. A little bitty pad from. Now look at that. Look at the difference in those two. Yeah, these pads are long overdue. Let's go ahead and get these off. We'll get all these new clips installed. As long as the parts guys listen to what I told them and actually got the right stuff. Sometimes those guys, they don't really know what you're talking about. You know, you're going, hey, I need brake pads for, say, a 06 Ram 2500 pickup 4-wheel drive. They'll be like, well, what size engine is in it? Well, sometimes that does matter, honestly, because that sometimes, say, your big diesels will need more stopping power, so they'll put different stuff on there. All right. But what's really weird is they'll ask it, like, say, if you need windshield wipers, they'll ask 2-wheel drive or 4-wheel drive. That's just kind of irritating. I don't understand the point of that. Yeah, these clips are pretty simple. Pull the old ones off and just kind of push the new ones back in. No big deal there. Now, gotta orientate this to where it sits like that. I'm gonna go ahead. The old ones don't have this. These new ones have these little clips right here. These old ones don't have that. So let me look at the other set, make sure that. Okay. Now it kind of makes me wonder which side goes where. Luckily, that's nice of them. They sent a little printout. But guess what? Little printout here does not show the one that has the little flap on it, which way it goes. Let's guess here. I'm gonna guess. Okay, so that one's gonna be like that. I'm gonna guess that it's probably gonna be on the outside. I don't know. Kind of irritates me. Guess that I'm wrong. I don't know. I can't get my hands to work for me. Something ain't right here. Well, I might take that tab off. I don't really see the point of having that tab. Sorry guys, this is kind of irritating me now. There it is. Oh, nope, came right back out. What the heck? These clips aren't being very nice to me. There we go. Wow. It's got to go over here because this tab would run into this part of the bracket. So I guess that's where it's going to be. I mean, they're should be fairly simple to put in. Oh, not that one. Grab this other guy. It would be nice if it said inside, outside, or whatever. Oh well. So you just kind of shove part of it in that bottom there. Come in right here. Ah, darn it. Gotta love when you mess up after spending all that time getting it on there. Alright, I'll be right back once I get this all on. Alright, I got the pads in and this piece mounted on now. What I'm going to do next, I've kind of got the bolts that mount that to the caliper finger tight. Reason for that is because once I get it back on, I'll kind of pull them off one by one. We're going to put some Loctite 243 on there. It's a little dab. It's like it's medium strength Loctite. I never go more than that on pretty much anything I work on. Now let's compare. Here's your new rotor. Look at that. Beautiful. Beautiful. Oh yeah, she's gorgeous. Look at that gorgeous right there, mate. Oh crikey. Missed that guy. Here's your old one. You can kind of see the damage there. See that ridge in there? They're about the same thickness, but we're still replacing it anyway. I'm not gonna go take the time to turn it down. It's my sister's car. I want to make sure she's good and safe, but I know everything that's on there that I'm working on is brand new, ready to rock and roll. All right, we're getting ready to slide that guy back on. So what we're gonna do before that is we're gonna take just this, the bolt, and we're gonna put a little dab. See, there was some, see that discoloration there? That's probably the original Loctite that they put on there. Just put a little bitty dab on that. That way I know it's there. All right, now let's go ahead and get this guy on. We'll kind of slide on. Sometimes they go on a little bit hard just because they still need to, the cylinders didn't compress all the way. Then you go on the back and catch the caliper with that bolt. Now it's caught and that's going to stay right there. I'm going to go ahead and do this other one. Little dab. Not much, just a little bit. It'll spread all over the place. And the anaerobic effect, which means without oxygen, once you compress it all together, that'll harden up and set up. And secure just nicely. Ooh, gotta get the hole though. There we go. Now you should be able to run those bolts basically in all the way with just your fingers. And a good rule of thumb, once you get it tight, you should use a torque wrench. Right now, I'll go ahead and just hand tighten all these and kind of run them in with a ratchet. Then I'll torque them when we're all done. I do a little bit like that. We'll come down to this bottom one. It wasn't one to do real well for me just by running it in by hand. Maybe I can now. Yep, there we go. She's turning good now. Alright. Now Loctite will also help lock that bolt in where that vibration of going up and down the road and rumble bars and potholes, that'll help keep them bolts all in there. You don't gotta worry about it. Like I said, I didn't forget. Pull this guy off. These bolts that hold that caliper. Well, I just forgot the name of it. A little bitty amount of Loctite on there. Get that back on. Do the same thing with this bottom one. Now always remember it's righty-tighty, lefty-loosey on these. When the bolt's facing away from you like this one, turn it to your right, because if you were on the other side, that'd be turning it to the left. So that righty-tighty, lefty-loosey rule is for like if you're facing the head of the bolt and not the threads of the bolt. So head, threads. So if you're facing it this way, it's righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. Get that back on there. Wasn't going in. Alright. Okay, then we're going to go ahead and run them in with this. Then I'll look up the torque specs and torque everything down before I call this job done. You don't want to tighten it too much. These are not that large of bolts. They're not going to, it won't take much to break them, honestly. Alright, now what you'll do after you torque those 4 bolts down to proper spec, you're going to want to go ahead and put your tire back on. Another good thing to do with this is all off, I forgot to mention that. Everything's free right now. Move up and down for wiggle room. See if there's any wiggle or any movement at all in it. You can also rotate it. If you hear anything besides this rotor against your pads, you might want to look into a wheel hub assembly. You can feel the movement more once the wheel is on there and you got it jacked up and on jack stands like this. You can really, if you really feel a movement in there, you might want to really look at a new wheel hub assembly. Let's go ahead and get this wheel back on. A lug nut. Another lug nut. Alright. Now, I have a pet peeve, I guess you can kind of call it. If you use an impact, kind of put these on, you never run them down tight with the impact. You kind of snug them up only. Now once you got the wheel back on the ground, that is when you use a torque wrench and finish torquing these properly. Reason being, these impacts will often go, even the small electric one right here, it'll easily do 195 to 200 some foot-pounds of torque. I use this little DeWalt when I was a diesel tech for John Deere. Used it for everything. I know it will over torque these lug nuts, so I always just snug them up. Right there. I never sit there and hammer on it, because that can warp your wheel. You don't want that wheel warped. That'd be a bad day. You could also over torque the lug studs enough that you could snap them if you hit a bad bump, and then boom, there goes your tire. You're in a wreck. Your whole family's in the hospital. Bad idea. Bad day. Real bad day. I'm just tapping it, making sure there's no movement in that. Now what we'll do, before I let my sister drive off of this, I'm going to pump the brakes so that way those cylinders extend and it'll kind of contract around that rotor here. That way I know when she drives away from here, she'll have plenty of stopping force. I don't want her getting in a wreck. This is a great thing to do, and I'll do the other side and she'll be out on the road. I'll be excited that she'll be safe. Alright guys, and that's basically the front brakes for 06 Pontiac Torrent. I'm sure it'll work on many other years of the Pontiac Torrents. Like I said earlier, if you've got the ability to help somebody out, you got the knowledge, the skills, you got some sort of tools, and even if they need to help you buy the parts or buy whatever you're working on, if you got the chance to help somebody, help them out. You'll feel great about it, and you're going to make the world a happier place just because you're helping somebody else out. I don't know the amount of money it would cost for my sister to get these brakes done by a professional shop, but I do know that by me helping her out, she is definitely saving some money. And she knows it's done right because, well, I'm her brother and I know what I'm doing. Alright guys, if you like this, helped you out in any way, shape, or form, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll keep pumping out videos on mechanicking work I do, the tree lines, my honeybees, and I'll catch y'all later. God bless y'all.